In this video, we're going to take the use case of continuing medical education, which really could be any continuing professional education. There's a lot of user-submitted documents for what course was taken, on what date, and how many credits were awarded in a particular category. We're going to apply this custom schema to these 5 very different documents, and we're going to create a beautiful Excel output, which of course you could save in a database, which would then allow you to actually tabulate for a particular person in a particular time frame, how many credit hours have they been awarded in particular categories. So we're going to do this using LandingAI's Agentic Document Extraction. Here we go. What you're seeing on screen here is what we call our visual playground, and it's a place where you can drag and drop a document and see both the Markdown and the JSON extraction for that document. Let's open up another instance of this and drag in a new document. All right, we have our extraction, and each one of these boxes represent visual grounding of the information that's found over here in the Markdown file. Now we want to get these documents, which have completely different layouts, into the same structured schema. So we're going to use LandingAI's field extraction, and I'm actually going to clear this to just start over from the beginning. So at the beginning, you have the ability to start with a suggested schema, which will automatically populate something like this based on the document you upload. And I can run this schema. This is a huge time savings, especially for highly standardized documents. And you can see that it's pulling out the credits, the issuer, the activity, and most of the information I would have wanted anyway from this document. But I do have my own custom schema, so I'm going to go ahead and upload that now. This is the one that you saw in my VS Code panel in advance. So I have predefined what I want, and now I'm applying it to this document. Of course, I can apply it to the other document as well, because I want to be able to check that my schema works well across diverse document types. All right, one thing I'm noticing is that I'm getting the BS initials behind the person's name, and I'd actually really like those to go away. So I'm going to modify the description of what I'm looking for and specifically say that I don't want that information. Back in my schema file, I am going to add a sentence here. So remove prefixes such as Mr., Mrs., Doctor, also remove any credentials after the name, and so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and save this, and then we'll upload that schema. Okay, great. Now I have just the recipient's name without the extra BS behind it, which I didn't want. So my schema is ready to use. So the visual playground is for testing and rapid iteration. Once you're ready to actually use this in production, you'll probably interact with it through our Python SDK. Let's go up to the top of this notebook. We'll clear all outputs, restart the kernel, and we'll run it together. So this particular notebook uses just some standard data science libraries and the Agentic Doc library from LandingAI, where you're going to use the parse function. Here I have my input folder, and in my input folder I have the 5 certificates that I showed you earlier. Let's also get the paths for those, because we're going to need to pass in the paths. So here we're going to run Agentic Document Extraction without field extraction. Okay, that took 10 seconds, and we have parsed responses for all 5 documents, and they've been saved to the results folder that I specified. Now we're going to do the same thing with field extraction. So here I'm going to define a custom schema, and this is all of the information that I defined previously in the playground, including these modifications I made on exactly how I want the name to appear. So let's go ahead and run this again, and notice that this line is new. So we're saying our extraction model is the continuing medical education schema defined above. Oh, of course, I need to actually define it. That's much better. All right, you can see that the response is just a tad longer, but now we do have all of our chunks saved as visual grounding as well as our extraction model. So let's go ahead and view that. And we've got the markdown at the front, and if I scroll over to the end, we should start to see some of the things that we defined, such as, issuing organization, activity title. So all of that is at the end of the JSON response. So there's a couple other cells here to help you understand the output and the response and the various things that you could do with it. So for example, this document is an image and it has 10 total chunks, which correspond to the boxes that we saw in the visual playground. You can access just the extractions for that document and access just the metadata. Here we're printing to screen just one particular field from the extraction, and also the metadata associated with it. So this name is coming from this chunk. And of course we can, for any particular chunk, then get more information about it. So this chunk appears on page 0 at these particular coordinates on the page. You can also, of course, create some text output here, so some kind of natural language sentences. So recipient name, this is extracted from chunk, etc. The certificate awards credits in the amount of 0.25. This is extracted from this other chunk. But ultimately, I think we want to convert that into a table. So here we're going to import pandas. We're going to set up an empty list. We're going to iterate through results FE, and we're going to pull into that all of the different fields that we're interested in. So here's my data frame. This is looking really nice. So from this original document, we've pulled out the recipient name, the issuing organization, activity title, date awarded, credit awarded in kind of the original language, then convert it to numeric and create some Booleans for each of these categories. So this is going to allow me to do summarization using the Booleans to say, for this particular continuing ed category, how many hours does this person have within a particular date window? And of course, I can save that to an Excel file, and that's where we all started. Of course, I could write this now to a database and continue to add more documents in batches every night as all of my medical staff continues to submit continuing education documents. So I hope this is an informative, realistic, low-hanging fruit type exercise to be able to turn these types of user-submitted documents into nice structured output using LandingAI's Agentic Document Extraction. Happy extracting!